It's the start of a typical school day where all the students are fangirling over Alisa. Ando, a second-year student, tries to Rizz Alisa, but she rejects him because she doesn't date ugly losers who use androids. She also told him that his chain is ugly as she walks away.
His jewelry whack!
In class, Kuze was sleeping when Alisa entered and greeted him. Kuze was no simp, so he ignored her. She gets upset and kicks him off his chair and tells him to stop staying up late watching waifu videos. He claims he was just doing some research with his friend when he lost track of time. Alisa calls him an idiot. While the class is going on, Kuze starts to sleep, so Alisa takes her pen and stabs him in the side, making him raise his hands. Alisa showed him the answer in the book, but it was the wrong answer. The teacher asked Alisa for the answer, and she answered correctly. Kuze realized he can't trust these women and thus began his villain arc. Alisa then starts to speak Russian and tells Kuze she called him an idiot. However, Kuze secretly knew how to speak Russian. He realized she called him a cutie, which made him confused. Kuze knew Russian because of a Russian girl he used to play with when he was younger. He thinks about how a hot Russian girl secretly has a crush on him, but he is not sure if he should tell her that he knows. Kuze pulls out his phone to use it, but Alisa tells him it was against the rules. He told her it was urgent, so she allowed him to use it. However, she gets jealous when she realizes Kuze was looking at a waifu from a video game. She starts to speak Russian and tells Kuze that she called him a desperate simp who spends his money on online girls. At lunch, Takashi cries about being a lonely, ugly loser who has no girlfriend. Alisa and her friend decide to sit at the table with Kuze and his friends. Takashi was nervous because he has never been this close to a girl before. Yuki begins to talk and flirt with Kuze, which makes Alisa jealous. Yuki explains that she has been friends with Kuze since they were kids. Yuki said she wants to be friends with Alisa, but she wasn't happy with that since Yuki was trying to steal her man. Yuki gets closer to Kuze and asks him to join the student council, but he declines the offer. Later, Alisa told Kuze she was shocked that any girl would want to be friends with such an ugly loser. Kuze then asked if she wasn't also his friend too. She agrees and walks away smiling. Later, Kuze dreams about his childhood friend who taught him how to speak Russian. The next day, Alisa arrives at school but was shocked to see that Kuze was actually early for once. He noticed that her socks were dirty and asked if she stepped in a puddle, but she said she wasn't an idiot like him. She explained that a truck splashed water on her while coming to school. She asked Kuze if he changed his mind about joining the student council, and he said no. She takes off her socks, but Kuze looks away. Alisa notices and decides to tease him. She told him to go get another sock from her locker. She then told him to put on her sock for her, but Kuze declined. She told him it was a nice treat for him, but he said he wasn't into that stuff. She then said it was a treat for her too in Russian, which started to annoy Kuze. She told him she called him a coward, so Kuze decides to put on her sock himself. She was shocked, but Kuze said she called him a coward, so now he has to be a man. He accidentally touches her lady parts, which freaks her out. She got up and ran away. Kuze messaged his friends and told them that he is no longer into melons, and he is now a feet guy. Later, Kuze tries to apologize, but Alisa calls him a foot fetish creep in Russian. She then told him she wasn't upset and apologized for kicking him. He then thanked her for allowing him to see the gates of her holy temple, which made her embarrassed. She runs away, and Kuze starts to chase her around the school. Kuze caught up to her and offered her favorite drink as a way to say thank you. She then asked if he wanted some in Russian, and Kuze realized she was asking for an indirect kiss. He pretended he didn't know what she said, and she told him she was just saying the drink tasted great. A few days later, around 1 in the afternoon, Yuki asks Kuze to help her clean the council room. While they're cleaning, Alisa appears looking annoyed at how close Yuki and Kuze are. Alisa soon realizes that Yuki set this up on purpose to make her jealous, knowing Alisa has feelings for Kuze. As they continue cleaning, Yuki yaps away, and Alisa tells Kuze less yapping and more working. Yuki seizes the chance to leave, and Kuze hears Alisa mumbling in Russian saying she also wants attention. Alisa thinks about how Kuze is an idiot for not knowing that she is throwing herself at him. After they finish cleaning, Kanzaki enters the room and is surprised to see it already clean. He introduces himself as the president of the student council. Kanzaki tells Kuze that he has heard a lot about him from both Alisa and Yuki. Kuze starts to feel uneasy and tries to leave, but Kanzaki stops him and says he wants to buy him dinner tonight as a thank you for helping after school. Kuze tries to decline, but Yuki steps in and suggests he accept the offer since he is a lonely loser who has no one to cook for him. Kanzaki then invites Yuki and Alisa to join them for dinner that evening as well. They go to a diner where Kanzaki thanks Kuze again for his help with the council work. Yuki mentions that Kuze is good at physical tasks and negotiating. Kanzaki recognizes Kuze's skills and offers him a position on the student council. Kuze politely declines, saying he's finished with student council work because he didn't enjoy it in middle school. Kanzaki acknowledges that student council work is a lot of effort but points out that it comes with benefits like an automatic recommendation to top colleges in the country. Despite the offer, Kuze is still not interested in joining the student council. He prefers to watch anime waifu and enjoy an easy life. Kanzaki then tells him that Yuki will face strong competition because Alisa is also planning to run for president. Kuze looks at Alisa, who confirms she will run against Yuki in the next election. After dinner, Kanzaki and Yuki leave together and Kuze walks Alisa home. On the way, Kuze asks if she really is running against Yuki, but Alisa seems hesitant to discuss it and says she'll walk the rest of the way alone. Kuze says goodbye and goes home, where he finds Yuki on his couch, ready to get clapped. It turns out that Yuki is actually Kuze's sister, but pretends to be his love interest to make Alisa jealous. She was reading a book about two-step siblings sleeping together, but she was upset that the siblings were not related by blood. The next morning, Kuze is woken up by his annoying sister calling him Oni-chan. Kuze was annoyed, and she asked him if his lollipop was rising for her.
What are you doing, step bro?
She drags him to a mall for a nice breakfast, but then insists he watch a movie with her. When he refuses, they go to a nearby clothing store. Kuze notices Yuki acting differently and asks her about it. Yuki explains that she saw Alisa following them and decided to stop pretending to be his love interest. As Kuze thinks about what to do, Yuki approaches Alisa and greets her warmly. Alisa, feeling embarrassed, pretends she's just shopping and runs into them by chance. Yuki then asks Alisa if she's had lunch and invites her to join them at a restaurant. She also asks if Alisa likes spicy food. Alisa, who has only had mildly spicy curry, says she can handle spices. Kuze decides to warn Alisa that the ramen there is extremely spicy. Alisa thinks Kuze is just trying to keep her from spending time alone with Yuki, so she decides to join them. They go to the ramen restaurant and Alisa immediately starts to regret her life choices. Kuze told her she can leave, but she stubbornly decides to go in with them. Once inside, they each order a bowl of ramen. Alisa notices that Yuki is dressed in a boyish way and takes the chance to tell Alisa that she had been in bed with Kuze that morning and borrowed one of his shirts. Kuze spits out his water in surprise while Alisa glares at him. He tries to explain that Yuki is a creepy stalker who just jumped on his bed while he was asleep, but Alisa doesn't believe him. Fortunately, the ramen arrives just in time to shift the focus. Alisa grabs her chopsticks and eats her ramen. The spice hits her immediately, but she tries to act like she's okay. Kuze hears Alisa mumbling in Russian about how extremely hot it is and gets worried. Yuki asks Alisa how she likes the dish, and she says she enjoys it, so Yuki gives her some hot sauce. Kuze warns her not to add it, but she insists and adds a bit to her noodles. When she takes another bite, she screams uncontrollably and runs out of the restaurant. Kuze follows her to a nearby park and checks if she's okay. Alisa insists she's fine, but when Kuze offers to buy her some ice cream, she happily accepts. He gets her a triple scoop so she can improve her skills with her tongue. While she eats, Kuze asks why she wants to be student council president. She says she just wants to aim higher. When he asks if she has a partner, she says she doesn't need one and can handle everything herself. Kuze explains that she'll need someone to run for vice president with her. Alisa responds that she'll just find a random person to list as her vice president. Alisa mutters in Russian that she wants Kuze to be her partner. After finishing her ice cream, she asks Kuze if he has any plans because she needs help shopping for clothes. Kuze agrees, saying they are friends, which surprises her. She wonders if he's just being nice because he thinks she has no chance against Yuki. Determined to impress him, Alisa angrily heads into the changing room. She worries that he might not react at all to her outfits. She steps out, and to her surprise, Kuze immediately compliments her, saying she looks like an angel. She was flabbergasted, and she quickly closed the curtain, feeling embarrassed. Kuze also feels embarrassed because he has never complimented a girl before. Alisa decides to keep trying on different dresses, and Kuze compliments, each one making her feel better. She finally picks a more revealing dress and opens the curtains to pose, only to find that Yuki has arrived. Feeling embarrassed, she quickly retreats and shuts the curtains and says she wants to disappear. Later that evening, they all head back on the train. Yuki and Kuze get off at their stop and say goodbye to her. Alisa starts thinking that they might start thinking she belongs to the street for wearing revealing clothes. She suddenly realizes that both Yuki and Kuze got off at the same station, and which means Yuki was going home with Kuze to have her peach penetrated by his lollipop. Alisa comes home feeling a bit down, but her sister Maria quickly hugs her and asks how her day went. Alisa says it was fine and heads to her room, but Maria can tell something's wrong and asks if anything happened. Alisa takes a deep breath and explains she just met up with Kuze and his childhood friend. Maria immediately smiles and asks if Alisa likes him. Alisa quickly denies it, saying they're just friends. Maria laughs and points out that Alia usually doesn't like hanging out with anyone who isn't a perfectionist, and reminds her of an event 6 years ago in Russia. Back then, Alisa and her friends were given a group project, and Alisa divided the tasks and carefully planned everything. She worked hard gathering data on her own, but when she returned to school on Monday, she was upset to find out that none of her friends had started working on the project. They didn't seem to care, but one friend noticed Alisa's work notebook and saw that she had almost finished writing an entire essay by herself. Her friends tell her to relax, saying it's just a school assignment, but Alisa insists they take it seriously. This leads to a big argument with one of her friends, who tells Alisa to do it all herself if she wants to be perfect. That night, Alisa stays up late working on the report, and she continues to do so every day until the results are finally announced. Another group wins because their report was more well-rounded. Alisa holds back tears as she clutches the work she did all by herself. As she walks home, she decides she will never rely on anyone again because they'll always let her down. After that, she passes a very tough exam and transfers to a school in Japan. On her first day, she gives a speech at the ceremony and instantly becomes a favorite. When class was about to start, she noticed Kuze for the first time sleeping at his desk. She woke him up and told him that class was starting, and he complimented her speech. She introduced herself politely, expecting everyone at this prestigious school to be perfectionists like her. But over time, she realized that most of the students were slackers too, with Kuze being the biggest one. Alisa started to withdraw from others, feeling disappointed by them once again. One day, Alisa stayed late sewing the banner for an event. Suddenly, the door opened and Kuze walked in. He told her she shouldn't overwork herself and should go home. Feeling irritated, Alisa told him to mind his own business because she had a lot to do. He explained that he got permission for them to stay overnight at the school and convinced some members of the handicraft club to help with the festival preparations. He suggested she relax and go home, but Alisa began to cry and said she couldn't relax because she wanted everything to be perfect. He told her she was trying to do too much by herself and she should let others help her. Alisa left the room and wondered what his problem was. The next day, everything changes for Alisa as Kuze somehow motivates everyone to give their best effort for the festival. They start coming up with lots of ideas for attractions, staying late at school and having fun and working together. The festival ends with a student dance where Alisa finds Kuze sitting alone. He asks why she's not dancing since everyone would want to dance with her, but she says she doesn't feel like dancing because all the boys keep asking her. Kuze laughs and tells her that people have started calling her the Ice Princess because of her cold demeanor. However, Alisa isn't happy about it and says she doesn't like being called a princess because it makes her feel like she was high and mighty, even though she's worked hard for all she's achieved. Kuze smiles and promises not to use that term. Alisa then apologizes for snapping at him the other day and asks if there's anything she can do to show her appreciation. Kuze tells her she doesn't need to do anything since she was the one who put in the most effort. Despite Kuze's reassurance, Alisa insists on repaying him for his kindness. A group of ugly losers approaches and starts asking her to dance, but she rejects them. Kuze steps in, takes her hand, and runs with her onto the dance floor, asking her to dance as a way to thank him. Back in the present, Maria comments that it sounds like the start of a beautiful love story, but Alisa insists again that he's just a friend because the idiot is actually reliable. Maria isn't convinced and just smiles at her. The next morning, Kuze heads to the student council to fill in for Yuki, who didn't show up that day. He meets Maria, who mentions she's heard a lot about him from Alisa. She asks for his help in shopping for supplies. He agrees, and as she grabs his hand to thank him, she suddenly feels a sense of familiarity, as if she's met him before. She asks for his full name, and when he tells her, she realizes something but keeps it to herself. She then tells him in Russian that they should get going, but Kuze pretends he doesn't understand. They go to a shopping mall where Maria gets distracted and starts looking at various stuffed toys to buy for the student council. Maria enters a tea shop to sample different teas. While she's trying various brewing methods, Kuze suddenly remembers how his parents separated when he was young. He chose to stay with his father while Yuki went with their mother because she was sick. He snaps back to the present and notices Maria looking at him with concern. She tells him he seems troubled and hugs him gently while his lollipop starts to rise. This shocks him as he feels a wave of nostalgia, and he wonders why her touch feels so familiar and comforting. However, Maria accidentally burns him with her tea. This is the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe for more videos.